Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my YouTube channel, The School of Love. My name is Maria, and I am helping people discover the inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. Today, I invite you to a new episode from the series, What I Wish I Knew When I Was Younger. In every episode of this series, I address an important topic, which is an issue of confrontation for many of us, and then I offer a definition of it, accompanied or followed by 5 little steps, 5 simple steps, once you know them, which lead to a process of healing and of forgiveness towards oneself and towards the others, as always. In today's episode, I will talk about codependence. Codependence is a very hot topic because very often codependence is mixed up with a sense of being there for others and sacrificing yourself for the others and putting the needs of others ahead of yours, and actually deleting yourself for the sake of others. So for a long while, for centuries, for millennia probably, this sort of attributes, so being able to empathize with others and allowing others to come ahead of you instead of being you the one who collect the glory. So allowing others to be glorified even though you were the one who did the work. This was regarded, for better or for worse, as a key feature in being a good human being. But nowadays, people live much longer lives, more complex lives, and lives which are, generally speaking, not so linear, like in comparison to the lives of those 2, 3, 4, 5 generations before us. And for that reason, codependence is actually a big issue. You cannot, like when you live 20 years, when you live 25 years, putting others ahead of you is actually essential for the survival of the community and, at the end of the day, for the survival of the species. When we live 100 years, and actually when we live any lifespan longer than 20 years, it doesn't matter if you live 30 years, if you live 50 years, if you live 80 years, or if you live 800 years, anything that's longer than 20 years, 25 if I want to be very generous, putting others ahead of your own, putting the needs of others ahead of yourself is a recipe for disaster, for a life which degrades itself gradually into revengefulness, hatefulness, huge amounts of resentment which never gets resolved, and then a level of toxicity which simply alienates everyone around you. And most importantly, it drives you either to suicide or to depression or simply becoming a mass murderer. So nowadays, what we identify as codependence is actually a very toxic feature which must be addressed very soon once the assumption of codependence has been risen. What does codependence mean, and why is it so easy to mix it up with a sense of compassion and cooperation and so borderless empathy towards others? So codependence is this attitude in which you define your own being, your own happiness, in terms of the being and the happiness of others. And not only you define it, but you make it dependent on it. Let's say you're a woman and you get married, and it depends for you very much if your husband is fulfilled, because when he comes back from work, let's say, and he's maybe a little bit too grumpy, maybe he had a hard day with work, but the only thing you perceive is that he's grumpy and he's not so tender as 99% of the time, then you become alert. you think something must be wrong with you. You have to repair it. You have to make it better. But truth is, there's nothing wrong with it. He's just maybe tired. And instead of asking him sometimes it's simply the question, is it okay with you? And he says yes, usually. Men usually say yes. And then the next logical question would be from myself now is, do you want me to leave you alone? And most of the time he says yes. So you just leave him alone. But if you're codependent, or if you have codependent tendencies, or if you have a codependent outlook on life, you'll panic. You'll think he wants to be alone, he doesn't want me anymore, he doesn't love me anymore, and from there it goes downwards. You feel, instead of just going on with your life, instead of going on with what you have to do, if you have something to do, or just feeling good about yourself and let him be, you turn into a sort of robot, trying to figure out how to make him feel better, because only when he feels better, you feel good as well. The same goes for your children. Let's say you have children, one or more children. Every time the child feels unhappy, for reasons of his or her own, for instance, maybe he had a poor mark, maybe he simply did poorly in a test or in an exam, no fault of your own. Maybe he simply didn't sleep well last night, maybe a friend didn't text him or her right away, who knows? There's so many reasons why people might be grumpy or sad or unhappy temporarily. But you feel it is your own problem. You feel that if that person, your child, doesn't feel good, doesn't feel like a sunshine all the time, you have failed as a mother. And then you think all sorts of strategies and tactics to make your child feel better so that you can feel better. Or maybe you have friends, probably you have friends, and every time they feel down, every time they feel anything else than perfectly happy, you feel it is your fault that people do not feel excessively happy all the time. This is codependence. And in order to heal it, so before I talk about the 5 steps, I have to mention, so what is the difference to being a compassionate person with healthy empathy towards the others? So the difference is that a compassionate person has a deep sense of empathy. So, and this is, I'm talking about emotional empathy. This means knowing what the other person is feeling, not knowing, feeling what the other person is feeling, because knowing would mean you have cognitive empathy. And we're talking here about emotional empathy, that empathy which actually counts. But instead of allowing yourself to be dragged into the other person's emotions, which most of the time have nothing to do with you, you have very healthy, very clear, and very clearly outlined boundaries. You have integrity. This is why compassion, healthy compassion, is a combination of healthy empathy and healthy boundaries. So you feel what the other person is feeling, you feel sorry for them, or you feel happy for them, but you do not allow yourself to get dragged into the maelstrom, emotional maelstrom of other people's emotions, of other people's lives. If they feel unhappy or if they show frustration, you ask very politely, is there anything I can do? Usually they say no, because this is what, and then, or they say yes, and then you ask what? You do your part as much as you can, but then you allow them to live their own lives. You do not discern what they're supposed to do. You just move on with their lives, and you let them be. If they need your help in a very concrete manner, you do it. Or you don't. So there are times when you have to say no. This is also a very important ability. But codependents don't have this ability. They don't have the ability to say no. And this is why most of the time they are burnout. And they are not only burnout out of exhaustion of helping everyone out, but also out of endless resentment, which does not get solved and resolved and let go. let go of. So now, how do we solve codependence? Of course, going to a therapist is probably a good idea. But how do you do it by yourself? Because only going to a therapist, even if you go, let's say every day, will not necessarily solve the problem. The first issue is to become aware of it. Becoming aware means look into yourself. Are you really happy helping others, or do you do it out of a sense of duty, out of a sense of guilt that you feel good while other people are feeling bad? If you do it out of a sense of guilt, this is codependence. Sometimes you, even as a healthy person with healthy boundaries, you might feel guilty that you have a good life while other people are struggling, but still, you'll try to help in healthy ways, in sustainable ways, rather than getting mixed up into that trouble. So becoming aware of the situation, and then asking yourself questions like, why am I glued to that person? Why am I glued to that group of person? What precisely makes the person or the group both attractive and toxic, which then leads to codependent behavior? And not only behavior, but also emotion, thoughts, and actions. What can I avoid or soothe these feelings of this push towards meddling with things which do not concern me? Why can't I just soothe it and move on? Once you start to identify the trigger, you identify the payoff, the reward as well. Because you'll feel like there will be something like, if I help that person feel better, I will feel better myself. Or my life will have a new direction, or will have the current direction reinforced, validated. Or I have a sense of validation and motivation coming from that other person. So there is some sort of emotional payoff, some sort of emotional reward which comes from getting involved and gluing to, and staying glued to a specific person, to a specific group, and connecting, connecting your sense of being to their sense of well-being. This is codependence. Codependence is when you feel this urge to repair everyone else, particularly those close to you, so that you feel worthy of existence, so that you yourself actually repair something within yourself without really becoming aware of that thing which you think is wrong and needs repair. It sounds complicated, but actually, every time we try to fix someone else, every time we try to repair someone else, it is actually an unconscious attempt, desire, expectation, need to repair something within ourselves without becoming aware of that thing. Because the moment we become aware of it, we might also become aware that, first of all, it doesn't need to be repaired. It wasn't broken ever. And that problem was actually someone else's problem, which we took over when we were children. And we carried it with us for all these years, decades sometimes. And next step, number 4, is find healthy ways to deal with triggers, such as proactively looking at the memory, the place, the present, the action, whatever it is, instead of running away from it. This is what I meant with repairing. Or that if we look deeply inside of us, we realize there's nothing to repair. There's nothing to do about it. We just need to acknowledge the fact that we have this desire to repair others, to fix others, and to acknowledge the fact that it is not the others which need repair. It's not even ourselves who need repair. It's just our lack of self-awareness, how beautiful and how good we are, and that what happened in the past, which led to this sense of woundedness, has to be let go and put to rest in the past where it belongs. And the final step, which is fundamentally important for this entire process to find a sense of closure, is to train yourself to feel gratitude for that moment in the past which turned you into a codependent person. Know that slowly, so there will be relapses, there will be mistakes meaning those moments when you are tired or when you are hungry or when you are in a hurry, and you will tend to do again and again the same, meaning to repair others. You'll fall into that old habit, and it will take years, particularly if you're over 40, so in already a middle-aged person, so it will take years until you will be 95% free of these old habits. So be patient and develop this sense of gratitude that by learning and by feeling yourself compelled, feeling compelled to take care of others, you actually turn into a very caring and very kind person. You just have to learn, in addition to that, how to protect yourself so that you do not depend on other people's emotions for your own emotional well-being. That would be for today. It is a very complicated discussion, which even specialists are very cautious with carrying on. But I'm happy for this opportunity to share with you these simple steps towards healing. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again very soon. Love and peace to you all.